It is Sunday, the 15th day of December 2024, and I am coming to you live on Love Bay Radio. We are here for you, celebrating the diaspora as we play music, we talk, we jam to our Afro beats. We are here to do nothing but celebrate the amazingness of being African, a part of the African diaspora, no matter where in the world you find yourself. I am Nadia Headley, and it is my utmost privilege to be here with you today. My first time solo, so let's see how we do. and here on Community Conversations throughout the month of December, we are talking about collaboration. And I can't wait to bring our guest on. She's been having some tech difficulties, so hopefully she'll be on a little later. But I'm really hopeful that you'll be able to hear from the prolific Alethia Cadore, who is a mastermind at collaboration. And I can't wait for her to share her tidbits with you. But before we jump into that, first of all, if you are listening to us through our radio platform, be sure to go over to YouTube and look for us, Love Bay Radio. That's LUV, Love Bay Radio. And make sure you subscribe and click the bell so that you get notifications so that you know every show that we have coming up here for you on YouTube. And yes, you can actually see me if you'd like to not just be able to listen into our radio shows, but be able to see us as we interview our guests. And you want to make sure that you get a chance to see us and catch the replays as well. Now, we have our first segment for the evening. What's going on? In our What's Going On segment, we are going to be talking about things that are happening in our community. So we talked about South-South cooperation last week, and I hope you were able to catch that. If you haven't, go catch the replay. And just type replay in the comments below and let me know that you're watching. But we talked about South-South cooperation, which is when those of us in the global South, so developing countries, tend to be located near and south of the equator. And when we decide to work together as members of the global South, we're able to share strategies and stories and ways how we are able to work directly with our community to solve problems that are unique to us. You hear language like small island developing states or SIDS, or you might hear BRIC, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, the largest or countries across the world that are still considered developing as opposed to developed countries. And with these terminologies, those of us who are working in international relations, international development, we are focusing on making sure that, the countries that don't have the strongest economies, don't have the strongest social structures, etc., are able to elevate themselves and their people. So another example of South-South cooperation that I found that I want to share with you, and I'm just going to put the link in the comments for you. So be sure that you go over and check it out and make sure that you can see it for yourself. But the World Food Program paid to send representatives from the Democratic Republic of Congo to Brazil. Why? Start thinking to yourself, what are things that these countries have in common? What are challenges that they may be facing that one could learn from the other? Well, Brazil has this extensive mechanism that will connect local farmers to school feeding programs. So I don't know where you are in the world, but many countries have programs where, if children are, whether or not they're being well fed or fed enough food, enough nutritious food. So it's not just the quantity of food, but it is the nutritional balance of their diet. So if you're in a place where there's any concern about whether or not a child has access to sufficiently nutritious food at home, then they tend to provide meals. And in doing so, the bigger your country is, the more important it is to make sure that children are uh, being fed, right? Because a hungry child cannot learn. We know that. If for those of us who work in education, we know that it is important to make sure that children are well fed. But Brazil has a very unique approach to it, where instead of using the massive machinery of agriculture and food production, they are connecting local schools to local farmers, which is really, really clever and kind of like a no brainer, right? It's so obvious when you hear it said that that just makes sense to do. On the one hand, you have farmers who are going to have severe challenges getting their produce to market. Let's say that you even have the infrastructure after you've done all the planting and, tending and sowing and reaping. Let's say you have the infrastructure to actually physically move your produce to an urban center where they can be bought by, let's say, a supermarket. In the case where you're not able to do that, then, what are you going to do with all that produce? So if you're going to try to sell within your local community all of the time, at some point you're going to realize that you just don't have enough buyers, and you're still going to have produce going to waste. So that's one problem the government has to solve, is that you have to make sure that your farmers can actually get their produce to market. Then, as we talked about, we can't have hungry children. If we want our children to learn well, they need to be well fed. And so, simple, right? Put them together. So representatives from the Congo were able to go to Brazil to find out how the Brazilian government is doing this and making it possible. How is it feasible? What type of, infrastructure do you actually need to have financially to be able to do it? And then one of the things that I thought was very key that they're looking at is, how do you respect the indigenous cultures of your children to make sure that the foods that you're providing are not just high in nutrition, but also familiar to them and celebrates their cultures at home. So I thought that was really, really, really interesting that they took that step to consider that. But what does that mean for you? Now, if you live in an urban center and not in, let's say, a rural area, do you know that many urban centers are considered food deserts? Because as we talked about before, it's not just whether or not there's enough food, it's whether or not there's enough nutrition in the food. When I lived in New York City, I lived in Manhattan, but I spent way too much time in the Bronx, which is why I speak Spanish, oddly enough. And I could not find fresh fruits and vegetables. I had to buy them in Manhattan and take them to friends and family who were in the Bronx, because it was much harder in certain areas of the Bronx to find fresh fruits and vegetables. I could find soda all day long. I could find, bread products and candies and sweets, and I can find a million things to eat, but nothing that was highly nutritious food. And the further you have to go when you have, let's say, lots of, you have to take your kids to and from school, or make sure that they get on the school bus or they get off on the right stop on the train. You're working 2-3 jobs yourself. The more life is compacted, the less time you have to go venturing out, looking for nutritious foods. And so, the idea of a farmer's market in a socioeconomically depressed area, what is that, right? We don't have time for that. You don't have time to meander and to schmooze and look for the best produce. And so unfortunately, for a lot of children in food deserts, so I mentioned the Bronx, there are pockets of Toronto that are considered food deserts. So every major city, most major cities, I should say, across the globe have these points of food deserts within their urban centers. And so if that's your situation, then what are things that you can learn from this example of South-South cooperation? How can you mobilize to create solutions to problems in your local community? If you are living in such a food desert, how can you connect with people who are relatively close by to make sure that, they have access to nutritious food? What are ways that you can petition your local government representatives to make sure that children are being well fed so that they can actually learn while they're in school? Right? These are examples from around the globe. the World Food Program was able to send those representatives from Congo to Brazil, but we can't all get tickets and go to Brazil to see this real life in action. So that's why we at Love Bay are bringing this information to you so that you can learn more about starting impactful community conversations right where you are, because it's more than just what we talk about here. It's making sure that you are able to continue the conversation and continue to drive impact locally. I am hoping that our producers will give me good news and let me know that our guest has sorted out tech issues. If that is the case, I would like to take this time to welcome our guest on screen with us. If not, production will give me a note to let me know whether or not our guest is here. And then I'll be able to either introduce her or we'll keep the conversation going ourselves, my friends. So do we have our guest with us? She is not here as yet. We'll tell you what, we are going to move on ahead now to community. Come along. And this is where I get the absolute pleasure of sharing with you work that's being done by nonprofit organizations across the globe. So far, yes, I've only shared Toronto-based organizations, and that's because I'm giving first dibs to the organizations that I work with most closely. If you are not on my client roster at 2114 Consultancy Services, Inc., then you need to connect so that we can find all the ways that we can help your nonprofit organization to strengthen itself, to become better operated so that you are able to establish better long-term relationships with your donors and your private sector partners. But for now, we'll continue to showcase our close partners and friends at 2114 and then spread the love more and more to many other nonprofit organizations. If you are connected to a nonprofit organization that you would like to see showcased here and you think that you're doing amazing work that the world needs to see, then make sure that you comment below. Put the link up if you can. That would be great if I can review it. Put the link up so that I can find your nonprofit organization and share more about it. But here we go. I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can meet Black Mentorship Inc. This organization has been started by a visionary woman, Evangeline Chima. Evangeline has been a stalwart in the community. She herself realized that as a professional looking to find ways to revamp her own career and make changes, as she, as an immigrant, was facing challenges in Canada, realized that there was not a lot of support. And so whether you are a young professional now starting out, or you've been working for some time and trying to figure out how do you get out of the rut, right? How do you move from entry level, couple steps above entry level, maybe you're stuck in mid-level management. How do you go further so that you can actually establish yourself as an expert in your field? So Black Mentorship Inc., that Evangeline here, the lovely Evangeline that I'm showing you on screen now, when she started it, it was really to make sure that more and more young people and working individuals will have access to mentorship. Mentorship that is culturally responsive. So understanding the Black experience in Canadian culture, in the Canadian workforce. It's one thing to say that, Black and brown people in Canada don't get a fair deal. But then when, a few people do escape out of the bubble and are able to go into to higher levels of service in their businesses, their organizations, wherever they're working, are they supported when they're there? Are they being mentored, or are they being torn down? Are they being undermined? What is the reality of the Black person, the Black professional working and living in Canada? How do you survive so that you're able to thrive in your role? So these are the types of interventions that this amazing organization has been delivering to our community. There are lots of different ways that they provide programming to the community, including, like I said, their mentorship program, where someone who's already been there can actually reach back out a hand and come in and help you to see how to move forward. Moms Empowered, specifically reaching out to moms who want to further their careers and also be able to build within their entrepreneurship, getting to know and understand, what other women are facing, so that they can develop themselves. They work in corporate wellness, and they're doing so much more. I know they have an event coming up, so I am really happy to share that. Oh my gosh, guys, your event is not on your website. Okay. They have an event coming up in 2025. And it's February 1st, 2025. And so keep checking out their website for, more information on that event that's coming up. So March 1st, 2025. Sorry, I'm lying. It's not March 1st. It's February 1st. February 1st, 2025. And if you are ready to say, hey, I want to join these other amazing people who have stood up and said, Black Mentorship Inc. is an amazing organization, and I want to be here to support the work that they're doing, then go ahead to blackmentorshipinc.ca/donate and do the thing, as Miss J would say, right? And let's get the love going, because we at Love Bay, we love our community, and we want to keep those conversations going within our community, of course. We are still experiencing technical difficulties with our guest. She is trying, guys. She is trying. But don't worry, we'll keep the conversation going. I want to also share with you a little bit about what we are doing at Love Bay in our segment, More Love. We got more love to share, my friends. It's not just about being the world's #1 African Caribbean online radio. It's not just about Afrobeat music and talk radio. It is about sharing the love. And I don't know if you know, so I am here to tell you, Love Bay has so much to offer you. Whoops. Yep, sorry, I'm listening to myself, because when you go onto the website, you also hear us talk. So when you go onto our website at Love Bay, you'll be able to follow along within the schedule to see all the different ways that you can learn from us and listen to us, and be able to just hear more perspectives from around the globe. All right. I mean, when we talk about around the globe, we are not exaggerating. We're not saying it just to sound cute. We really are bringing you lots and lots of perspectives from around the globe. So if you haven't tapped in yet to everything else that Love Bay is doing, you want to make sure that you're staying abreast. There are tons of shows. So again, if you're listening to me through our online radio platform, be sure to join us on YouTube. Yes, go search for at Love Bay Radio on YouTube. But and make sure that you subscribe and that you click that notification bell, so that you can hear and see as well all of the shows that we have, that we're delivering to you. So you're here with me, J. Nadia Headley, on Community Conversations. Thank you for joining in. But you also have the Blue Sky Radio, Mental Health Hour, the Gems of Life. There's so many other shows that we are able to produce for you. Voices of the Millennials, right? Gospel Sunday. So whatever it is that you're doing, take us with you, right? Turn us on our website, or make sure you download the app, or turn us on here on YouTube and come along with us. So I am still seeing that there's some challenges in the background, but I'm going to ask production one more time to let me know, is our guest ready to go? Can we go with our guest, Alethia Cadore? Are we able to bring her up? And if she's not ready, guys, we are going to rock it out, because I can talk, trust. All right. All right. So we are still working out technical difficulties in the back end. So we've been having a lot of conversation on collaboration and what even sparked this idea. So, first of all, at 2114, we tend to work, like I said, with nonprofit organizations and with businesses that are run by leaders who have a clear passion for the community and a clear vision to deliver real change, substantial change to the community. And in doing that, we tend to work with a lot of visionary women who are leading these organizations. And so we've met many women, including our guest, Alethia Cadore, through our activity in our Her Story program. And Alethia has just been working with us in our Courageous Crowns program to raise funds and awareness for Black women living with and beyond breast cancer in support of the Olive Branch of Hope, whom I introduced to you last week. So I'm really happy to be able to finally bring Alethia up to you as I introduce her and share a little bit more about her work and her background. So production is letting me know she is ready. Production is going to bring her up live. And I'm going to tell you, this is just a snippet of how amazing Alethia is. She's innovative and well-oriented as a child and youth care practitioner, as a registered therapist, and a mental wellness advocate. She is a member of the Ontario Association of Child and Youth Counselors, and she is a registered psychotherapist of Ontario. She's a board member of the Ontario Society of Registered Psychotherapists. She is a recipient of the Raymond Chang Volunteer Award, mentoring Black and students of color in the Tri-Mentoring program. And Alethia identifies herself as a wellness practitioner in private practice that supports Black communities and people of color heal from stress and trauma by implementing mindfulness and CBT, which I know as cognitive behavioral techniques or therapy, she'll correct me, to reframe our thoughts and heal our community. Her focus is education, which is, we have a lot of common ground there. Even in personal conversation, Alethia has been very helpful and supportive of my family's journey in homeschooling our advanced daughter. Her focus is education, mental health and wellness, and mentoring with a decolonization perspective. Alethia's experience extends to EAP, executive coaching. She's created courses on mindfulness, resilience, and self-care, supporting executives who want to lead with empathy. And so we are hoping that we're able to bring Alethia up on screen. Yay! Finally, you're here. And she's gone. Okay, we're gonna keep trying with Alethia. So as I was talking before, Alethia really is, the walking, talking epitome of collaboration. Most recently, we worked together in that Courageous Crowns campaign, where the Her Story platform was able to bring together more than 10 entrepreneurs who wanted to support the Olive Branch of Hope. And be sure to let more people know about the organization and how they can support Black women living with and beyond breast cancer. And so Courageous Crowns, because we talked about our HERE journey, going through cancer treatment and beyond cancer treatment, and kind of our own perspective on what it's like for us to lose our hair as a Black woman, and then your hair is growing back and it's not exactly the same. And so Alethia was really instrumental in making sure that she shared the information out with her community so that they could be invited to donate. She was often the first to be able to amplify our messaging out to her community. And I've never done anything with Alethia where she didn't say, I know this other person that you should talk to. She is a wellspring of information and connection, and always trying to make those connections as simple and easy for people as possible. Just today, as I was sharing the information with others to let them know that they could join us live, someone said, "Oh, Alethea volunteers with us," and I thought, "Yep, that's Alethea." And so she continues to be a major community builder. If you are a nonprofit leader, then this is someone that you really want to be able to work with to help you build that empathy based leadership in your community. As you build your board membership, as you build your donor spaces, as you build your outreach to people in your community that you are working to support, you want to have somebody like Alethia Cadore on your side. If you are in business and you are looking for ways to establish yourself, as someone who cares about your community and cares about the people who work for you, then Alethea is absolutely one of the people that you want to be able to get on board with you. Still facing a few tech challenges. So here we go. We're going to give that another try and try to see if we can pull her up on screen and if we can also hear her. If not, we're going to have to try something different. But let's see if we're able. Alethea, I can see you.
Hi.
I
Can
can
you?
hear you.
Oh, good. Let me just leave this on.
Don't touch anything.
I'm not going to. I don't know. As soon as I clicked on cam, then my volume left. And then so I said, okay, let me try volume. And then my camera wasn't
Yeah,
working. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just leave it.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
here.
yeah. We'll just
Hi.
leave it alone. Oh my gosh. I am so glad that you're here. I was just telling everyone that, in my opinion, you are the living, walking epitome of collaboration. I've never done anything with you and you didn't say, "Oh, Nadia, you should talk to this person as well because they're doing something that, you might relate to or similar." And you do it so easily, so well.
Well, I think it's based on how I grew up too, that we were always thinking about community. So
Mhm.
when I see that there's something going on and my memory goes back to some of the people that I've met before, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I think I had a conversation with someone similar to what we're doing right now. So then I'm like, have you met this person? Have you talked to this person? And I found that I was doing that a lot this week,
Mhm.
just trying to connect people in the
Yeah.
community. So I really love the topic, and I just think it's so important at this time that
Mhm.
we talk about collaboration.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? And collaboration over competition. So,
Yeah.
for those of us who've been in business for a long time, or, if we went to business school, for example, we would have heard things like competition is good. We need competition for business to thrive. Because we're fighting against the monopolies, right? We don't want monopolies and we don't want oligarchies, and so we want competition. But now we are evolving a little bit more and having conversations about collaboration as even being a better step. What are your thoughts on why we've needed competition so much in commerce before and where collaboration is taking us next?
Okay, well, that's a great question. So when I think about where this information came from or why we are competitive, I think about the European ideology about getting ahead. And for their mindset, getting ahead means you're just focused on your goal. You don't bring anybody along with you. And whatever you're striving for, you do whatever it takes to get to the top. So, if you don't have a lot of relationships, or you're spending a lot of time or a lot of hours at work, eventually you're going to get rewarded for that. And they don't really talk about the fact that, you know, the their ideology is a little bit different from the Afro-centered Caribbean ideology, and maybe some other BIPOC communities too, where it's better to do things as a collective instead of doing something independently or in a silo. because I find that when you do that, it's more isolating. You're only thinking about that European mindset, which is to trump all I had to use that word, trump all competition, and just focus on the top. So you're only as good as your competition. So you would look at the people around you and see what they're doing and then try to match that or do better. But what I've noticed is that for Afro centered and Caribbean centered people and other BIPOC communities, they don't talk about competition. They talk about the fact that, you know what? If I have my brother that's down the street and I don't have what this person needs, I'm going to call my brother down the street and say, hey, do you have this? And then I'm going to ask that person to go down there and I'll give them the same price. And that happened to me today, actually, when I was at the flea market earlier on. I was looking for a carpet and he said he didn't have the size. So he said to me, you know what? Hold on. Let me call my brother that's only a 10-minute drive from here. Let me see if he has it. And he said, yeah, he has it. And he told me they're usually going for the retail price at the retail store. But since I'm going over there and he was the one that's sending me, he's giving it to me for the discounted price, which is half the price of
Wow.
what they were selling it in the store. And I was like, yes, I'm definitely driving up there to go and get what I need, because he, number one, checked in to find out if his brother had it. Second thing, he said, you know what, I'm going to make sure that you get the same price. And on top of that, he's like, you know what, you're going to the retail store, but I'm giving you the discount market price. And I'm like, wow, who does that?
And
Right?
that's just the power of him, like responding to your own, what you put out there, he's responding to that, right?
Yeah, and he wants to keep the dollars within his community. So
Yeah.
he's saying, you know what? Just drive 10 minutes more and you'll
Hmm.
get exactly what you need. And I'm like, well, how can I argue with that? I mean, he's giving me exactly what I need. I don't have to look anywhere else. And I'm getting the price that's great for me.
Yeah.
Sold.
Why
So
not, right?
I would like to see that more in our community. And I am seeing it a lot more. And I think because I'm consciously practicing that, where I have a collective group of people that if I need something, I go to that group first. And then if I can't get it, then someone will suggest where I can go. And then I go directly there. So my business, my private practice has been open for 5 years now. And within that 5 years, that's how I have made business, is through contacts and connections and staying within my community. I'm just going to be honest when I put this out on the table. I haven't done anything Europeanized except go to the grocery store in the last 5 years. Everything that I need, I've received it from my community and from my contacts.
So I'm going to dig in there a little bit. What do you say to people who feel as though, let's say, in a major metropolis like Toronto, for example, I can't run my business focusing on Black people because Black people don't like to pay?
Well, I hear a lot of people say that, but I just happen to find some people that they like the product and it's a viable product, and they are continuing. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, we have to expand to other BIPOC communities, because the first thing is, yes, you can buy and sell with your own community, but sometimes those referrals get a little bit dried up. They might get a little bit stale. So you have to start thinking now, well, I can widen my reach of people that I can reach out to, or I might need to connect with other communities that are equity serving, that understand what it's like to be marginalized, and then you could do business with them. But honestly, I like to do business with my people first, and we are a diverse group of people. And I think that's what kind of gets limited to us, because we think, okay, well, I'm from the Caribbean, so I can only trade with those people. But we have people from so many other countries that are open to do business with us, and that's what we really need to start focusing on and looking for.
Yeah. So when you talk about the European perspective and that interaction versus the Afro-Caribbean approach. Is that when the same thing as what you talk about decolonization in education? Can you talk more about that?
Yes. Well, what I look at with decolonization is the fact of going back to our traditional ways of knowing. And when we go back to our traditional ways of knowing, we have to think about the research. How did we do business with one another before we came over to these parts where we were divided and separated and conquered? We used to do everything as a collective in our community. So, say you lived in a section and you had 10 of your family members living in a house, or maybe in the neighborhood, there might be 9 or 10 families. We used to pool our resources together and buy everything in bulk. So that means that everybody would get an equal distribution of goods and services that they needed. And just like other communities, they would make sure that they had the professions. Like, say, someone in your family was a doctor, someone in your family was a lawyer, someone in your family was a nurse. You had all these professions. So you didn't really need to go outside of or go far. You can find these people within your community. So that was most of the record keeping, was who was responsible for what, and then we would keep records on who did what in the community. So if you were sick, for example, you would say, okay, well, I'm going to go to Sandy's house, which is 2 doors down, because they have nursing or they have a good knowledge of herbs. And then I would just go there and get my medical treatment. So we didn't go far
Mhm.
for the goods and services that we needed. And there's an old adage that if you can go alone, but if you go with people, you'll go faster. And I know that I'm not saying the exact
If
adage
you go
correctly.
alone, if you go alone, you'll go faster. If you go with others, you'll go farther.
There you go. So when I started listening to those adages and I started really thinking about it, we have always been doing things as a collective all this time. It's just because of the fact that we migrated to North America and our families are living in different areas of the city, or, we're working so much we don't have a lot of time. But most of the time, that's how we used to do our thing. And I remember growing up here, my parents would say, "Oh, look, there's a sale at on the steads, and the box of soap is on sale, or you have rice that was 10 kilograms." I'd have to buy 6 to 7 bags at one time and just have everything stocked up. And I used to love that show, Coupon Wars. I don't think they show it anymore, but I used to live for coupons and I used to love it how they would get all their shopping done under
Yeah.
$100, and then they would go and triple it, and I used to say, "Yes, I love this stuff." Because that's what I remember growing up. We would just have everything downstairs in the basement, and you would just stock everything up. And then during the winter time, we would hardly go out because we have everything. And look at me now. I just bought 2 boxes of soap the other day and 2 big thing of toilet paper, right? That had 60 rolls and it was $14, which is kind of expensive. I used to get that for $10, $11.
Yeah, but you
But
see, that's the thing, because you're always going to let
inflation.
people know where the deals are,
Yes.
where to go to, to get the hookup and, make sure that the community is set, right? Now,
Yes. And
Alethea,
yeah.
you've had so many different examples of collaboration. You've done so much collaborative work. You and I have collaborated a few
Yeah.
times. We have lots of friends in common in the business world and
Yeah.
whatnot. And so I want us to be able to help people who are not used to this, right? Let's say you come up in that tradition of competition, right? Competition is good, greed is good, and all of these really old, outdated ways of thinking about business, and that the high rise executive penthouse CEO kind of locked in way of thinking about business. And so now here you are when we talk about things like the sharing economy, and
Yeah.
people are more willing to work together, and the consumer is more concerned about their dollar and where their money is going, and consumers are asking different questions now from ever before. And so, if you are interested in developing a collaborative effort as an entrepreneur, as a nonprofit leader, what are the steps? What do you do if you want to develop a collaborative effort?
Well, the first thing I would do, and this is what I've done, is I try to focus on people that were like minded, like myself, that have the understanding of collective consciousness and they understand the power of their dollar and making wise decisions. Now, the reason why I say that is because it's not like we've never done this before. There has been collaborations, and for some people they would think, well, these big superstores are the ones that are collecting data on us, right? And we know that Amazon has one of the largest data systems in the world right now. And every time you purchase something, they collect information from you. And based on that information, depending on what your algorithm is, you're going to get certain ads that are geared towards you. And if you look on your newsfeed or maybe you're on your YouTube, and it's happened to me where I might be looking for something and I put it in my search engine. And then for some reason, all the commercials on YouTube are geared towards some of the stuff that I was looking at. And I start saying to myself, like, how do they know exactly what I need? So
Mhm.
there must be something built into their mechanism that they are churning out this data based on A, my demographics, B, the choices that I've made in the past, and then C, my actual purchases that I made. All these things are stored.
Mhm. So then what do you say to people within our community who refuse to fill out surveys, when they're generated by businesses in our community, who say I don't want my data to be out there, but they're giving their data away to these big
Yeah,
international
what's the
organizations?
difference?
Yeah.
I don't understand that. What's the difference? Because, once you sign into something, your data is collected. And what I say to people is, yeah, I think it's helpful that if a new business, especially a Black owned, Black led business, is asking you, hey, I want to launch, but I need some information from you to figure out what type of products you need. I always make sure that I fill out those surveys because their questioning is directed to my payments and to my dollars. So I know that they're going to be specifically catering to my needs, my demographic, the choices that I've made, because obviously they analyze the data and they've made that decision. So that's the first thing that I say to people. Try and see if you can get some data that you can look at and analyze. What are other businesses doing? What are other Black led businesses doing? Get your survey and start asking questions. Based on that data, then you can drive where you think your business should be. The second thing is get into a lot of groups. Now, on my WhatsApp, I must belong to about 8 or 9 different groups, and they're all business owners. Some of them are based on property investment because you never know. There might be a cleaning company that might say to me, hey, I want to break into the cleaning business. Are you in a group where you could share my ad? And I'm like, yeah, I'm with a whole bunch of realtors. Why don't you give me your ad and I'll post it in there? Because I'm sure once they have a house that they need to stage, they might need a cleaner. So then I dropped the information there. And then someone even called me and said, oh my gosh, I don't know where you dropped my flyer, but I had a couple of phone calls. And I'm like, fantastic. I didn't ask for a percentage.
No, what do you say to that? What do you say to that, Alethea?
Well, I don't
To
know if there's a way
finder's
we can get
fees and
a
well,
finder's fee.
yeah, what do you so okay, we're looking at, as people build collaborations, right? They've never collaborated before. This is all new for them. You know, what do you say to people who are like, oh no, I don't want to pay a finder's fee, or I've never heard of that before? Why do I have to pay you for sharing my information? Or is it good business? Is it bad business? If you're going to look to work with somebody else, do you offer a finder's fee for sharing your
Mm,
information? What's your
that's a great
suggestion?
question. Well, it depends on what it is. You know what I mean? Like, if I know that they're going to refer me because I have a private practice and there might be someone that might be struggling, needing support. So I would say, okay, well, if you drop my name in a couple of places, then the next event that I have, I'll definitely hire you, or I can refer your name for something else. So that's how we just keep each other's names active
Mhm, mhm.
in business.
And you create an
Um,
opportunity to barter.
that too, because where I can give another example of me going to an event. And then this woman called me and she's like, hey, someone just told me that they needed a psychotherapist. And I'm like, wow. And she's like, I gave them your name. So I always try to keep those contacts. And now that it's coming towards the end of the year, anybody that I did business with this year, I send them a thank you. I can't mail any cards because of Canada
The
Post strike, but
yeah.
I'm going to send them an e-card and just say, thank you. You really
Mhm.
helped me and you really supported me, and the next time I have a referral, I'm going to be sending you a referral. And I think
Yeah.
that's what keeps your business active in people's minds.
Mhm.
And I've noticed now that if someone's like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling and I need some support, people are just automatically saying, hey, have you spoken to Alethea? Or have you ever spoken to Minds I Like? And then they drop my information. So now I don't even, I'm just being honest with you, I've never had any paid ads in the 5 years that I've been in business. Everything has been somebody introducing me, someone saying, oh, we saw you somewhere and we want to invite you, or I took one of your webinars and I need you to do a speaking engagement here. And October, I had 4 speaking engagements, one every week. And it was all based on people seeing me somewhere and then hiring me.
Mhm. Look
I
at
didn't have
that.
to do an ad or nothing.
Yeah. So we're talking about like keeping your name fresh, as you said,
Yeah.
keeping things moving around as much as possible,
Yeah.
offering bartering opportunities where possible, right? So whether or not the exchange includes something like financial, like a finder's fee, or just an exchange of services, or a way to, to keep other names going and being in rotation.
Yeah.
We're talking about all these different methods of how you get the ball rolling in a collaboration. What's the end goal? Why would we collaborate?
Well, the end goal is just about the energy exchange. And this is what I tell people. You might have some stagnancy in your business where you're thinking, oh my gosh, I got to get clients, or, I'm not getting my products moving as much as I can. When you team up with somebody, your creativity opens up. You're opened up to a new group of people that this person may have, but she could have or he could have tired out their referrals. But you're coming in with a new business with a new, fresh idea. And maybe both of you can collaborate on a package together, or another way of bringing more attention to your business. And once you bring more attention, that's where the energy goes up, and then you'll get an exchange. So it might not be something that happens right away, but you will see the evidence in a couple of months. So
Mhm.
I know that for some people, that's where we lose some of our patience, because we
Mhm.
want to see things happen really,
Right
fast,
now.
or
Mhm.
you want it to happen right away. But I just know that when I've done these collaborations, or I'm reaching out to people just to get more information. Um, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, somebody always hits me back up.
Well, that's a really interesting thing to talk about. First of all, the energy exchange. I think we look at the benefits in terms of, oh well, my business is going to get all this exposure, but sometimes we forget about our own drainage of energy because we're pouring into our businesses.
Yeah,
And then our communities, like you said, sometimes they're getting tired about hearing the same things over and over from us. And so they're getting tired, their energy is dropping. And so when you have that freshness come up in your collaboration, there's a reviving. And to your point, it also means you got to be really careful who you connect to,
Yeah.
because if that energy is another, drainage coming your way, you got to be very mindful there, right? You can't always be the one who carries the collaboration. And to that point, if you've decided, okay, Alethea is making sense what she's saying, I like this, I want to collaborate with someone, where do you start? How do you get started?
Well, the first thing I do is just reach out to the person and just introduce yourself and say hi. There might be something on their website that you liked. Fill out that contact form
Mhm.
and put in your details. If they have a newsletter, sign up to the newsletter. And, there's no obligation there,
Mhm.
because after a while, if you're following them and it's probably not even resonating with you again, then you could just delete. You're not owing anybody anything. You're
Yeah.
just following them just to see if what they have to offer aligns with your offer.
Yeah.
And then the second thing I did was I try to position myself so that I can get on someone else's podcast,
Mhm.
or, that person may have done an interview and I saw them there. So I'll reach out to the interviewer and just say, hey, I saw this person on your podcast. Do you know how I can get a hold of them? Because usually they do give you the details. And then from there, that person might be saying, oh, um, I was on another podcast before. And that's what I did. I was able to just invite myself and tell them what I was up to. And then they thought, hey, why don't you come on our podcast and speak to what it is that you're doing? Because we'd love to hear it. And then when I did that, I said, you know what? I have another friend that could benefit from this interview that has an amazing business. Do you want to hear from them? And then the next week, I see that person on the podcast. So I always try to, reach out, and then also, I'm going to market myself, but then also pay it forward to somebody
Right.
else.
Right. So now what about the person who's really shy or maybe super introverted? And if the first step is me reaching out, I mean, I might, maybe, I might not. I might think about it for 6 months.
Yeah.
How do I mentally prepare if I'm a person who is, you know, I started a business because I saw that there was a need and I knew that I could help meet that need. But I'm not really the kind of person who just likes to go up to people and say hi and talk. How do I mentally prepare for that?
Well, it's just another adage that I'm going to be throwing out there. Closed mouths don't get fed. So you can stay small and just, stay within your shell. That's fine. But you know how far that energy is going to exchange. So if you're not able to do it, that's what Chat GPT is for. That's what emails are for. So, if you're concerned about how to craft it, then I just go on my chat and I'm like, hey, I want to construct a letter to this person, and I put in their information and their website. Can you do a short 300-minute, 300-word intro? And boom, something pops out. So, I always tell people, try and get out of your comfort zone
Mhm.
and try something new. If you're scared to talk to them, that's fine. That's why we have so many AI tools now. You don't even have to do any talking. You just program the computer and it does it for you.
So you can find tools, you can find ways to work around it. You can,
Absolutely.
make sure that you're not just, suffering within that need to move forward, while you're struggling with what's natural for you, right? Because I think that's one of the best things about entrepreneurship that people don't realize is the many ways that you are stretched, right? The many ways that you are called to grow and to deepen your sense of self and your knowledge of who you are when you get into business. People think about
Exactly.
going into business to make money, but there's a lot of self-development that's necessary.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't know anything about sales, but
Right.
then I learned along the way, and shoot.
Are you okay there? Oh, I think we have another tech issue here. Yeah, so Alethea was sharing with us about different ways that she's been able to collaborate and to support others. Before we sign off in a few minutes, I just wanted to, talk about sometimes you get into a collaboration and you realize this is not exactly working out. Maybe the person that you've decided to collaborate with, As they reveal more of their true colors, you realize, oh my gosh, this person is kind of toxic, or this business isn't, they said they were going to do something and now they're not doing the thing they said they were going to do, or they're not doing it in a way that I think is ethical. What do you do? What do you do? Because for many of us, sometimes we get, it's that we gave our word, right? We gave our word and we want to commit to what we promised that we would do, but now it's not really panning out, right? So what do you do? And this is where what we just talked about in terms of having those deeper conversations with ourselves and knowing who we are, right? Knowing what works for us and what doesn't work for us, knowing what works for the people that we are serving. And I think that is the most important thing. I was talking with a business partner recently, and she said it's all about who we're going to serve. And it's always good to have those reminders. So when you're in a collaborative event where someone isn't pulling their weight, let's say, or they're not contributing in a meaningful way, or what they're doing seems a little shady, it's not exactly, aligning with your values, center yourself on who is being served here. Is the community that I work for going to benefit, not just now, but also in the long run, right? How do I keep my word, first of all, to the community that I'm serving? How do I keep my word to myself? Because I decided that I was going to, step out of my shell and try something new and find a different way to connect and to expand my business. Also, what are we learning? What are we spending our time doing? How are we investing in ourselves? How are we investing in, making sure that we're becoming better and better entrepreneurs? And that's, here in Community Conversations, we're having these chats about collaboration so that we can start to ask ourselves these questions. Am I a good collaborator, right? I might want to reach out, but am I good at it? Am I going to give my side of, am I going to contribute the way how I said I was going to contribute? Or if things change, am I going to communicate clearly that things have changed, right? Because we can't expect life to go perfectly. So if something has gone wrong, am I going to be strong enough? Am I going to be honest enough to just be able to say, hey, this is not going the way how we thought or the way how we planned? I think there are a lot of people who, when they talk about collaboration and look at collaborating in their businesses, one of the challenges is that people have been burned before, right? People have tried, they have stepped out of their shell before, they have stretched themselves, and then went bad, went south really fast, right? And so how do you get up again? How do you get back on that horse? I've had amazing people be able to speak into my life over the years, and another business partner, amazing consultant, was able to share, it's not just about staying small versus growing big. It's about who you're bringing with you. Are you creating enough space to bring others with you? And when you stay small, whose opportunities are you locking up? Right. And so even if we've been hurt before, does it mean we don't collaborate again? No, it means we've learned something, right, in that previous experience. It means that maybe next time we're going to put something in writing, for example, and we're not just going to be like, oh, yeah, well, my friend said, right? It means that maybe we're going to firm things up a little bit. It means that we're going to have deliverables. It means that we're going to have check-ins. It means that maybe we are going to be a little bit more compassionate, right? Sometimes the being burned sounds a lot like, well, I told them to do this thing and they didn't do it the way how I wanted them to do it. And so sometimes, we have to be the ones who take the step back. Maybe we're the reason the collaboration isn't working out. And so, like we talked about before, in entrepreneurship, if you're leading a nonprofit organization or a for-profit organization, there's so much self-development and internal learning and growth that needs to be intentionally discovered and curated so that we can move forward together. And we are going to move forward throughout this week, having more and more conversations about collaboration. We're going to take what we learn here together and put it into our lives, because we at Love Bay Radio, like we said, when we bring you these Afro beats and we bring you this music and this talk, and we bring you these conversations and all of these shows that are being curated by volunteers, amazing volunteers who sign up to be able to bring all of this content to you. This is a massive collaborative atmosphere here, a major collaboration effort that is coming your way from around the globe, so that we get you talking more and more. Take this information here, go back to your community, have these conversations, continue to talk. And when you do that, make sure that you follow, like, subscribe wherever we are: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. However you can connect with us, because we have nothing but love for you here at Love Bay Radio. And that's me, Jane Nadia Headley, signing off today, telling you that it is an amazing opportunity here that we have to work together to do more good in our community. Thank you for being a part of the Love Bay family. I cannot wait to have more conversations with you as you connect with us everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. So subscribe, share, like, follow, do all the things. Talk to us. Let us know what you want to hear more of. Write in the comments below what else you want to hear us bring to you as we have more conversations in our community. Thank you.